Today, if I reflect, this is the third handing over of boats and engine ceremony that we are holding in this year. And we had held a number of handing over ceremony in the past. The boat and engine initiative started in 2014 under the Fiji First government, and the reason why the government decided that we need to provide boats and engine mainly to students who live in remote and maritime areas is for their safety. One reason is safety, the other reason is so that the students can reach school on time. And third reason is if the rivers, streams are flooded, or if the children had to walk for miles, all that will stop. Because the comfort will be there once the students sit into the boat and they're taken to the school. And not only the students, but also the teachers. So that was the initiative that rolled out from 2014. And if you are wondering how many, what is the dollar value of boats and engines given out to the school so far, it runs in a substantial sum, and that would be around $1.4 million. So from 2014, the government has spent $1.4 million just to buy boats and engines and to give it out to the school management committee. Now today we will be handing over boats and engines to 4 schools in the Eastern Division, and the dollar value of these boats and engines are around $74,000. And along with the boat and engine, we will be providing you with 100 liters of fuel, and safety kits will also be given to you. And we understand that 100 liters of fuel is not going to last forever. So then the next question is, where will you buy the fuel from? Well, obviously from a service station or wherever you buy it from, but the point is who's going to pay for it? Now that money can come out from the free education grant. So you can use free education grant to buy the fuel and also to maintain the boat and engine, because all these assets require maintenance, it requires proper care and servicing of engine and so forth. So you need funds for that. And that means that no school should ever have any excuse that today the boat is not in a good working condition and it is parked somewhere. There should be no excuse, because you will be taking care of this boat and engine throughout. And you must do that, because finance is not an issue here. It's about having a standard operating procedure that should spell out the maintenance process as well as the servicing of engine that is generally required. So all that should be factored in your SOPs. Your SOPs should also clearly spell out the purpose when the boat and engine will be used. Because I have been emphasizing this at every handing over, that this boat and engine which is given to the school management committee is for a very specific purpose, and it is to transport students. Transport students where? To schools. So it is not for community usage. Not that you are having one big gathering at another village and the community can sit in that boat and go to that village. It is not for that purpose. That would be treated as abuse of boat and engine. I'm just clarifying this because one needs to understand the purpose why this boat and engine is given. Right? You need to record this in the inventory that you normally have to record all your assets, it is a valuable asset for most maritime schools. Whenever I visit schools, one of the requests that comes from the maritime and rural school is if we can have a boat and an engine. And we have been making submission to Ministry of Economy, and during this national budget, we have received around $167,000 to buy boats and engine for those schools who had made request. So we're going to buy boats and engine and give it out to some of these schools. Now, going back to this 2014, year 2014 is when the government made a decision that they will be paying for the tuition fee, they will be paying for the bus fares, boat fares, and RSL services will be paid by the government, including sanitary pads and many other assistance that the government has rolled out. Now, if we simply sit down and analyze how much have we spent from 2014 till now, only in free transport, it runs around, or you can say the cost is around $171.5 million. So just transport assistance, which includes bus and RSL services, it comes to $171.5 million that the government has spent to transport our children from point A to point B. And that's a huge, or you can say, one of the biggest commitment Fiji First government has made. And our commitment is towards the education of our children. And why? Why are we focusing on education? Why education has taken a center stage? It has taken a center stage because if you read literature from many other countries where they don't have resources, for example, Korea, they focused on education. And education changed the quality of life of its people. Now, the government believes that we need to create a knowledge-based society as well as knowledge-based economy. And for that, education is very, very crucial. And that's why the huge investment is made every year. And when we talk about this investment, let me just spell it out one more time, that when the national budget is announced, 20% of the national budget goes towards education, 20%. And 7% of our GDP is towards education. Now, that is a very serious commitment that the government has made. And even this year, $33.3 million have been set aside for the transportation of our children. That is the cost. Now, while we are committed in educating our children and relieving the financial burden from our parents, unfortunately, what we see, there are children who stay home. They don't go to school. So what can we do about this issue? Now, there has to be certain level of parental responsibility. There has to be certain level of parental responsibility. Parents cannot expect the government or the teachers to go into each settlement or each village to get the children out of their homes and take them to school. This is parents' responsibility. And it is rather sad to see that some parents are not taking keen interest in their children, and you see children moving freely within the settlement on a school day. And I just wonder why parents are not taking the initiative in ensuring that the children go to school. And I mentioned it previously and I want to repeat again, that there are teachers who have been reporting the matter to ministry, and this is in regards to children who come to school without food. And when the teachers ask them what is the problem, the children tell the teachers that the parents were asleep when they left home because they were having some drinks or grog or whatever. So they go to school without food. Now, as a government, we are here to help those children who genuinely cannot bring lunch to school. We have a scheme going at schools. We provide free lunch. But we cannot provide free lunch if the parents are not taking responsibility when they can afford to make lunch. They have the money and the resources to provide lunch. When they're not doing that, that's where the problem lies. And I'm urging the faith-based organization, our community elders, to start talking along this line, because we need to deal with this issue. And you can imagine if children, very young ones who are in primary school, if they don't go to school, what will they do? Obviously, they'll be moving around from one home to another home, and they'll be the kids will be moving in groups. They'll engage themselves into glue sniffing and other, addicted to other substances which they shouldn't be taking at this tender age. So I'm kindly requesting and humbly requesting all parents to please spend time with your children. It is their basic right. Education is their basic right, and parents need to encourage children to be back in school. And if they're facing any problem, in case they do have problems, they can contact Ministry of Education. We'll be able to talk to them. We'll be able to assist them. And if they cannot reach out to us for some reason, they can always contact the head of school. They can contact the school, class teacher. And that message can be conveyed to our divisional head, and the divisional head will bring that message back to ministry, and we can definitely assist those parents. So the ball is really in parents' court as far as the government is concerned. We truly believe in free education, and we're doing whatever we can within our financial means. But if the children are not going to school, it worries me, and it should be a worry for the whole society and for the whole country, why children are not going to school. Right, so I will leave it here, and I encourage the school management committee to do a regular check, because you are closest to the community you represent, and you can have a good discussion with the community members and encourage them to send their children to school. But before I close my session, I also want to focus on other areas where students can get assistance. Right, as I have mentioned, education is one area where the largest budget is allocated to Ministry of Education. But there are other forms of assistance. For example, if your child is not well, you need to take your children to a doctor. Now we've got a free medical scheme. You can take your child to a private doctor and you don't have to pay any money. They will look after your child, and if the doctors feel that further tests, blood test or any other lab report is required, then you also have an access to these dedicated labs and dedicated doctors, or you can say medical centers, which are registered under free medical initiative. So that's one provision. The second provision where there is some form of assistance for our student is to do with the inflation mitigation package. Right, we know that the cost of living is rising, and one way of mitigating that is by ensuring that parents are not stressed out, or the dollar cannot buy what they want, because you cannot stretch your dollar that far, and for that reason the government will be providing $180 in the next 6 months in 2 installments to each and every child that you have. Now that money is definitely should be used towards children's food and whatever the children need, and it should not go towards grog and cigarettes. We are humbly requesting parents not to do that, because as I have said, I can correlate the 2 issues. When children don't come to school or they don't come with lunch, this is the time that money can be spent on food and buying nutritious food for the children. So that's the second initiative that the government has rolled out, and already under the social welfare there is child care allowance for the disadvantaged children from a disadvantaged family. So all this assistance is there, and if all these assistance are there, and when you hear that the children are not in school, it definitely saddens all of us, and we keep questioning why children are not in school. So with these words, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to end here, and I wish you safe journey back to your schools, and please use the boats and engine wisely, and all the best in the education of our children. Vinaka.
Thank you, Madam Minister.